at the Movies with Tim Sika. Here he is. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Kim. Happy
Hi.
Friday to you. Yeah,
Happy
how you doing?
Friday. Good. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah, you said it. Yeah, when you have that many viewers and it's the weekend and people are chiming in, yeah, it happens. It's no worries. No worries at all, ever.
So I watched something that you recommended.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Well, I do this often with your recommendations, but I went to Disney Plus and watched. God, now I forget. It was the streaming recommendation you had about the baseball show.
Yeah, yes, and I'm drawing a blank too on the title. What's it called? Come on, Tim. Jays. Yeah, it was
It'll
about
come to me. It'll come to me.
it was about the Pickles baseball
Pickles
team.
baseball team. Boy, were you right. It is really good. So far, 2 episodes are out of this show streaming on
Hmm.
Disney Plus.
Movie. Come on, what
No,
is it?
it's called
Pix-
Win or Lose. Win or
Win
Lose.
or lose.
There we
Yes.
go. We got
Win
it.
or lose. Yeah, you
Win or
got it.
lose.
That's right.
Yeah, that was really good. All that for that, but it was really good, and I recommend it. If whether you have kids or not, it's actually the visualizations in
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
kind of emotionally healthy, I think. I like that show. So thank
Yeah,
you.
they've really, I don't know, you said it very well. They captured that thing of what it's like to be those characters in that situation in real life,
Yeah.
and they do it like nobody else. It's amazing. Yeah, well, wait, it gets better. You saw the first 2 episodes. I saw the first four,
Okay.
and it gets even it gets even more out there in a really, really good way as the series progresses. But yeah, I'm glad you liked it. It's always
Yeah.
nice when
No, thank
somebody
you.
likes what I recommend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jacob and I watched it yesterday, and he actually watched it twice, the first 2 episodes twice, because I
Ah,
wanted to see it, and he had seen it without me. So,
yeah.
yeah, it was a really good one. Thank you for that recommendation. The first recommendation you have for this week is The Monkey.
Well, yeah, I actually, yeah. How did you guess that I'm going to kind of recommend it? Yes, the monkey. Yes, the monkey. The monkey of the title is a toy monkey. You know what monkey I'm talking about, right, Kim? Usually, that wind-up toy. It's like
Yeah,
a monkey figurine that
well,
bangs two symbols together,
yeah,
right? Right.
yeah.
But in this monkey, and it's based on a Stephen King short story, the monkey in question that creates all the havoc is responsible for all the gruesome killings that take place on screen is more or less it's the same toy monkey everybody recognizes when they see it, except this monkey bangs a drum instead of clashing two cymbals together. I had
Oh,
read somewhere where they did it that way because they thought that Disney might have had a copyright on the monkey with the symbols because it was featured in Toy Story, and you know how
right.
Disney is so ready to sue everybody.
Sure.
Anyway, when this monkey bangs that drum, this he's referred to early on as an infernal son of a whore. This monkey, you don't want to be within earshot of this monkey when he bangs his drum. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, this is a horror comedy. It's a very tongue-in-cheek horror comedy about these two twin brothers, played as boys by Christian Convery and as adults by Theo James, whose lives are kind of thrown out of whack or impacted or whatever by this cursed toy monkey that causes these totally random and totally horrific deaths. And the monkey's basically invulnerable. No matter what they do, they can't kill this thing. They can't dispose of it. It just keeps on going. It's like the Grim Reaper version of the Energizer Bunny. This monkey. Anyway, and weirdly enough, I liked this film. I shouldn't have liked this film. It was really kind of sick, but I liked how it imposed this comically sick sensibility upon what I understand was originally a very serious treatment. It was meant to be a very serious movie, but the director, Osgood Perkins, who's the son of actor Anthony Perkins, he said, no, this is too serious. We have to make it funny or people are just going to be like, puking in their
Oh,
seats when they're watching this movie, and made it funny. He did. And that's what I liked about the film. Even though you go, Jesus, why am I laughing at all these like bat expletive crazy killings? Somehow the imposition of a comically sick sensibility over all this violent and gruesome stuff makes all this disgusting stuff seem it's fun and entertaining. I'm going, God help me. Why am I laughing at this? Anyway, like a lot of Stephen King, this when your brain goes into gear, it's all very silly and very stupid stuff, and the
Right.
plot contrivances just seem to be arbitrarily thrown in to justify all of the screenplay silliness and stupidity. But damn, if here is not, it's confidently directed. In a way, I found it a little too low key. I kind of wished it was going to be more balls out insane. I think it's getting way too overpraised with a lot of overkill hype. I was expecting more based on the pre-release online
Sure.
chatter and critical reactions. But that said, I also liked, the other thing I liked about this movie is, in addition to making a joke out of all of these gruesome killings, it very healthily, in my opinion, poked fun at death. It tended to strip meaning, meaning with a capital M, that we all tend to ascribe to death by basically saying, hey, people die. Death is a part of life. Some people die violently, some people die quietly, some people die unexpectedly and without warning. But it's just life. And so live your life knowing that this is where we're all headed. We're all going to die. And so just chill, enjoy life while you got it. And I like that. That was kind of neat. And there were some funny scenes regarding that with a priest, for example, in church during the funeral. It's just too funny. Anyway, if you're looking for a good horror comedy, this should fit the bill. I really recommend it. It was a fun, albeit somewhat of a sick diversion. It really makes you laugh. I bet you Nikki would like this movie.
Oh, totally. Yeah. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, we'll text her and say, Tim says you have to watch this one. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think she'll really kind of groove on the mixture of
Mhm.
comedy and just God, the killings in this movie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if
Well,
they had done it
it's not for
seriously,
me, but yeah.
yeah. The comedy makes it palatable, weirdly
Mhm.
enough, as that sounds. Yeah.
This next one I had a really hard time finding the movie poster for.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
this is right or
That's
not.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. We're not hearing a whole lot about this movie. It's called The Quiet Ones, but we should be, because it's one of those good movies that tend to get lost amidst all of the
Mhm.
big studio hype. That these smaller movies they tend to miss being a recipient of. It's a heist drama. And the heist drama is a careworn genre. People think of heist drama, they think of movies like the Ocean's movies, Heat, Out of Sight, Jackie Brown, those types of movies. But this one has a little different something on it that makes it particularly interesting and fresh, just as a genre picture. And as a heist drama. And that something is, well, for one, the story is based on a true life incident that actually happened in Denmark. And it happened in the midst of the 2008 world financial crisis, where this group of uncompromising criminals decide to do the impossible to break into this financial facility in Denmark that was housing, I don't know, some in excess of billions and billions of dollars. It was a cash handling firm. I think that's what they call it in Denmark, a kind of mini Fort Knox. And this movie is a dramatization of that breaking into this facility. And so it's the story of the biggest and most spectacular heist in Danish history, and the lengthy and the risky preparations that were required to pull all of that off.
Takes money to
And,
make money, Tim.
oh man, and what was also notable about the film and its style is that the filmmakers have managed to also throw in some thematic risks. I always like it when, in addition to being entertained, you get some stuff to think about. But in addition to the rattling good tale that this movie is, there's a good deal of stuff kicking around thematically in the film, along with the adrenaline-fueled sensibility that the script and the director's handling of it have been brought to bear upon the whole affair. And for example, the reasons why these guys are embarking upon this insanity, they differ. Some, of course, are doing it for the money, but the main character of this piece is doing it just for the sake of doing it. And this is all documented. This all happened. He didn't really have to do it, but he wanted to do it to see if it were possible to pull off. Insanity, considering all of the risks involved. So the film explores that, the men's motivations. Each of the characters appear to be after something that the heist will bring them. And the film also explores the fine line between the criminal and the law abider. and how that sometimes bleeds into the other. And it's just so very intense, Kim. When the criminals break into the facility, the cash handling firm, the panic and the chaos that ensue while they're frantically trying to collect all this money and they're trying to stuff it into these bags, and the way in which all of that is dramatized is grippingly intense. And that intensity never ever really lets up. There's this sense of impending doom too hanging over the whole movie, and dread in just about every frame. There's also this fabulous sequence when the criminals are fleeing law enforcement that are going after them after the robbery, and then it starts to heavily pour rain. There's a rainstorm, and so it's a chase. It's one of the most exciting and beautifully shot, tense, and unnerving chase sequences I've ever seen. This
Wow.
film isn't really, nobody's talking about this movie. Yeah, so what we've got here basically is a real nail biter of a film, and a really fine and a fresh take on the heist genre. And it really does get under your skin, but in that moviest of ways. It's substantial in terms of content, and it's entertaining in the way you want to be entertained when you're going to see a movie. So check it out, folks. It's called The Quiet Ones. I don't believe it's opening in any theaters today, but I think you can rent it on Amazon Prime for just a few
Oh.
bucks. But it's definitely worth checking out. It's also worth checking out just as a piece of history, an incident that happened. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's all around good movie. What can I say? Yeah.
I like it. I like a good thriller, so maybe that's one to put
Yeah.
on after the kids go to bed. That's a good one.
Yeah.
The next movie you have for us is actually a streaming option, and it's called Zero Day.
Zero Day, yeah, just dropped on Netflix yesterday, I think. And what this is it's a 6 episode political thriller. It stars Robert De Niro. He plays this ex-US president who's asked by the current POTUS, a black woman, by the way, played by Angela Bassett. I think when they made this series, they assumed Kamala Harris was going to be the next POTUS. But yeah, we can talk more about that later. But the great Robert De Niro, he plays an ex-POTUS who's asked to head this government task force. It's called the Zero Day Commission, to determine who it was that planned, perpetrated, and executed this devastating cyber attack against the US, where something like 3,500 people were killed. And objectively, I should be trashing this show.
Oh.
It's a real mess. It's kind of confusing. It's overstuffed with plot elements that are introduced and then never explored, with other tangential plot diversions that seemingly go nowhere, with writing that seems to be made up as it's going along. It's a real mess, but for some weird reason, I got into it. I liked it. It has this super stacked cast, for one. Robert De Niro plays the president. Joan Allen plays his wife. I don't remember the last time I saw Joan Allen in a movie. Connie Britton, Matthew Modine, Jesse Plemons, the always scary and creepy Bill Camp, Angela Bassett, as I mentioned earlier, Dan Stevens, Clark Gray. Amazing cast. So there's that. I also admired the writers' attempts, and I think they fail, but props to them for the effort. I admired the effort and the writer's attempts to create this fictional narrative that's based on what we're all experiencing in the country right now. All of the boxes are checked, internal government corruption, the uncertainty and the chaos and the confusion that people are feeling right now, the spread of disinformation, the unraveling of the Constitution, billionaire tech bros exerting undue influence over U.S. policy. It's all here. And though it kind of resonates on that level, it feels superficial, like undeveloped. Somehow feels like a missed opportunity. I can't quite put that into words, but or maybe not. Maybe this series will age well if we survive as a country and parenthetically as a species. But it's still this hot mess. The other thing that was interesting about it too is that you can see the appeal that this role had to De Niro, because it gives him this opportunity through his work, through his craft as an actor, to make a statement about his, as most folks know, his anti-Trump,
Mhm.
anti-authoritarian viewpoint. So that's another interesting aspect to this piece. The writers may, like I said, may have also thought that when they put this together, that Harris would be the next POTUS because Angela Bassett plays the POTUS here. Anyway, messy, frustrating, and I may be out of my mind. But by the time episode 4 ended, up until that point, I was actually going to bail on this series. I thought, okay. But by the time episode 4 ended, it got so, I don't know, it got so twisted. I thought I just have to see how they're all going to sort this out. And so I stuck with it and I really wound up liking it. I'm
Oh,
recommending it, but with all the caveats that I just mentioned. The cast alone, it's worth seeing for the cast alone. These are actors who just knock it out of the park. They
I
see they seem to be making sense of out of all of it. So,
I saw Robert De Niro on, who is he talking to? Some talk show, some
uh-huh.
maybe Kimmel, one of the, late
Uh-huh.
night shows, and I think he was promoting this. You know who it was? It was Stephen Colbert,
Ah,
and
yeah.
he was talking to Colbert, and Colbert asked him a question about who are his heroes,
Hmm.
and De Niro, says, "Oh, Nelson Mandela," and then he says, "And the police officers with the Capitol Police Department that stood up and protected everyone on the January 6th
Yeah.
situation." And he goes on to name the officers just off the top of his head. And
Wow.
Colbert says, "Yep, yeah," and he agrees with them, and then they pause. And it's almost as if it was a pause that they had pre-planned because it was so perfect, where they just were looking at each other, nodding, not saying anything, and it was this
Hmm.
powerful pause where they both just looked at each other and went, "Yep, it's the
Yeah.
world we're living in," you
Yeah, well,
know?
he's expressed on television and
Mhm,
in other interviews and via X and stuff. I mean, his loathing of what he sees is going on in the country and the man at the helm and all that stuff. So,
mhm,
I suspect it was probably cathartic for him to kind of channel, his craft into
mhm,
this story that addressed all these things that he finds objectionable, and a lot of us, the majority of us, find objectionable about what's going on in this country right now. So it's like, even though I found Zero Day to be a total mess, that
mhm.
there's just too many good things it has going for it. I think critically, yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a lot of reservations, but yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Zero
good,
Day
and
on Netflix.
it's on Netflix. It's only
Mhm.
6 episodes, so it's a real easy binge too.
Who is Luigi Mangione? This one's
Yeah,
on
who?
Max.
Yeah, this is a short 42-minute, immediately out of the gate, it seems, HBO documentary about the man who has been charged with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And I really don't have too much to say about this film because most of the information is out there in the media that this movie covers if you sift through
Mhm.
all the crazy surrounding it. But to me, it seems a little too early to have made a documentary about Luigi Mangione.
They were
His
packed.
Yeah, his story and the aftermath of this murder really hasn't fully been told yet. Obviously, it hasn't
Mhm,
played out yet. But where I think folks might be interested in checking this out is that it does give the viewer and the person who may be confused with what maybe they're hearing about this guy and all the daily news and info that we're being plummeted with as to who in a general sense Mangione is, what possibly prompted him to commit this extreme act, who Brian Thompson is or was, the man he shot and killed, the man who was, the CEO of United Healthcare, very controversial company, by the way, and a for-profit one too. I do not hasten to add, but a good enough reason for folks to check it out is that it not only presents a cursory glance at the factors that may have contributed to Mangione thinking he had the right, to do this.
mhm.
It it illuminates how Mangione has become, even though he's committed this cold-blooded murder, a kind of cause celebra in the
Sure.
media.
Mhm,
So it's interesting enough. If it felt incomplete and definitely worth seeing, and it also really it sheds yet another light on where healthcare in
mhm.
general is in this country. It's really a broken system. And the facts, to me, clearly show that the way it's being practiced in this country is that it values profits over the people it's supposed to be protecting. So it's there's a lot here. It'll be interesting to see how all this shakes out with him and his trial, and then I think a really much more nuanced documentary
Mhm.
will undoubtedly be made. But it's a quick watch. It's 42 minutes, and it's a nice assemblage of all the facts that we know now that are surrounding this whole controversy. And yeah, it's interesting and worth seeing.
This case definitely gripped the country. I mean, it was everywhere. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
your
So
classic movie recommendation of the week, Tim Sika, is New York, New York.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's
I'm
one from the
go,
40s too, and I didn't know which poster was right, but I think this is the one, right?
this is the one. Yes, Robert De Niro again. Perhaps arguable as a classic, and I don't know if people watching they take my suggestion. Maybe they should watch it if they'll forgive me, because this is a strange movie. But New York, New York is one of, in my opinion, Martin Scorsese's most underrated movies. Perhaps his most underrated. Came out in 1977. It's a musical of sorts, but not a book musical, meaning the characters never break out into song per se. All the musical numbers are either performed on stage or in a nightclub or in a recording studio, because this is about two artists. And if you're going to make a musical, what better person to cast than Liza Minnelli, daughter of
Mhm.
Judy Garland, who plays in this story a big band singer. She plays opposite Robert De Niro, who plays a musician, a jazz saxophone player. And what the movie does, it's kind of like a meditation on the classic MGM musicals. It's evocative of those classic MGM musicals, only with a more realistic denouement. And what it's about, the setting is the big band era in this country post World War II, and it's about the challenges and the difficulties of two creative people, really creative people, trying to make a marriage work. And it's unusual, it's different. It bombed big time in 1977 when it was released, and it went through various iterations. It was cut, then the studio recut it, then it was restored to its original version. But it's a movie that is growing in stature as the years march on, even though it was reviled by a lot of people when it came out 48 years ago. It's a work of art that, in all likelihood, was just severely misunderstood when it was released. I think I got it because I loved it, and I was just one of the very few
Mhm.
that loved it. De Niro and Minnelli are just fabulous. They're an odd coupling because, and you can see this in the movie too, their acting approaches differ. Minnelli is very, she likes to know what the script is. She likes to know exactly what it is she's going to say. De Niro likes improvisation. So anyway, they're an odd coupling, but the casting works perfectly with regard to what Scorsese wanted to accomplish with the telling of this particular story in this particular way. She knocks it out of the park musically. Minnelli does. There's a song, a number she performs in one uninterrupted take. It's called "The World Goes Round." It became one of her signature songs that should have secured her an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. It didn't, of course. In fact, the entire film was completely ignored by the Academy. But it's always been one of my favorite movies, and in my opinion, it's a bold and a brilliant take on the movie musical genre, and a movie I always keep going back to. I keep finding new things in it. I love it. And I just wish more people would see it
Mhm.
and talk about it, even if they do wind up disliking it. It's too interesting to just dismiss. And that's New York, New York.
Tim Sika, you always bring me the good stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Kim. I'll talk to you next week. Looking forward to it.